I should have known something would go wrong. It was a warm Sunday afternoon. I was 7 months pregnant and glowing, at least I tried to be. My husband, Tyler, had helped me decorate the backyard with soft pink streamers, fairy lights, and a small rented tent to block the sun. It wasn't fancy. It wasn't expensive. But it was mine. My baby shower. For once, something just for me. The guests were already arriving, close friends from work, a few neighbors, and Tyler's family. Everyone brought little gifts and cheerful smiles. I smiled back, even though my stomach twisted with nerves. Not from the baby, from the thought that she would be here soon. My mom. We hadn't talked much since I got pregnant. She never seemed happy for me. Said things like, "You sure this was a good idea?" Or "Babies are too much for someone like you." But I still invited her, because deep down, I kept hoping, maybe just this once, she'd show up and be proud of me. She came late, as always. Everyone had already eaten. Laughter was bouncing around the tent like music. Then the energy shifted. People got quieter. I looked up, and there she was, walking across the grass like she was doing us a favor. She didn't smile. Not even fake it. She looked around, her eyes sharp and judging. First the food. Then the gift table. Then the people. She muttered, tacky, loud enough for the guests near her to hear. I stood and walked toward her. "Hey, Mom." She looked at my belly, then back at me like she smelled something bad. "This your idea of a celebration?" she said. I felt the heat rise to my cheeks. "It's not perfect, but I just wanted to make a memory." She scoffed.
"Yeah.
A memory of wasting people's time." Before I could respond, Tyler called out, "Babe, it's cake time." I turned, trying to shake off her words, and walked toward the table where the cake sat. It was a 2-layer vanilla cake with pink frosting. A friend had baked it with "Welcome, Baby Grace," written in gold letters. It was simple, but beautiful. Everyone clapped as I picked up the knife. I was smiling again, finally, holding back tears, thinking, maybe this moment can still be saved. Then I heard her heels clicking on the patio. My mom stepped up beside me, looked straight at the cake, and said, loud enough for the whole backyard to hear, "You? Being celebrated? Please." Before I could move, she leaned forward and spit on the cake, right there, in front of everyone. A loud gasp moved through the guests. Someone dropped a glass. Tyler froze. My body stiffened like I'd been slapped. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. The gold lettering ran a little as the spit sank into the frosting. I just stared. My hands were shaking. Tyler stepped forward. "What the hell is wrong with you?" But she didn't back down. She looked straight at me and said, "You don't deserve this child. You couldn't even keep a goldfish alive." And that's when it hit me. She didn't just hate my choices. She hated me. Someone ushered my mom away, trying to calm her. Others stood frozen, unsure whether to leave or say something. My ears rang. My vision blurred. I whispered, "I'm fine," to no one in particular. But I wasn't. That night, after the guests left quietly and Tyler cleaned up the mess I couldn't bring myself to face, I went to our bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, and just held my belly. The room was dark, quiet. The only sound was the soft buzz of the ceiling fan and my own shaky breathing. Tears ran down my cheeks before I even realized they'd started. I wasn't crying over the cake or the party. I was crying because deep inside, I still wanted her to love me. Still wanted her to say, "I'm proud of you." Still believed, somehow, that if I did everything right, if I grew up, got married, worked hard, built a life, she'd finally see me. But she didn't. And maybe she never would. I whispered to the little girl growing inside me, hand on my belly, "I won't be like her. I promise." And for the first time that day, I meant it. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there for hours, staring at the ceiling in the dark, my hand still resting on my belly like a shield. Tyler tried his best, brought me tea, held me, whispered soft things. But there are some wounds words can't reach. Some hurts that live too deep. By morning, I was running on 2 hours of sleep and a lifetime of memories I didn't want to remember. It's strange how one moment, one awful, disgusting moment like someone spitting on your baby shower cake, can unlock years of buried pain. Like my body had finally said, enough. We're done pretending this didn't happen. Because this wasn't new. This was just the worst version of something that had always been there. Even as a child, I felt like an accident in my own home. I remember being 6, standing in the kitchen doorway with paint all over my shirt. I had drawn a picture of my mom, Amanda, and me. I was so proud. I showed it to her, smiling. She barely glanced at it. Why'd you make your head so big? Looks stupid. Amanda came running in 5 minutes later with a messy crayon sketch, just the sun and some stick figures. Mom clapped and stuck it to the fridge like it was a Picasso. That's when I learned being good wasn't enough. Being Amanda was. In school, I studied hard. Always tried to be the easy kid. But even when I got an A, Mom would say, "Why didn't you get an A+ like Amanda?" If I got sick, she told me I was being dramatic. If Amanda got a cold, she stayed home for 3 days while Mom made soup and wrapped her in blankets like a princess. Birthdays? Amanda had themes, princess parties, pony rides, handmade cakes. I got a pizza, some balloons, and her saying, "Well, you're not the social type anyway." I didn't understand it then. I kept trying to earn her love like it was some prize I hadn't worked hard enough for. By the time I was a teenager, I stopped trying. I got quiet, did everything myself. If something broke, I fixed it. If I cried, I did it alone. And yet, even then, I still watched her and Amanda like a kid pressed against the glass of a warm, perfect house. A house I was never invited into. Tyler once asked why I never talked about my mom much. I shrugged it off with a joke. I didn't want him to think I was bitter or broken. But now, I wasn't so sure. Maybe I was broken. Or maybe I had been broken by her. I sat in the living room that afternoon, flipping through an old photo album I hadn't touched in years. One picture stopped me cold. I was maybe 8, sitting on Mom's lap. But she wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Amanda. Even in my own photo, I was invisible. I shut the album and set it aside. A few days later, I found out Amanda was having another baby. She posted a fancy announcement online, gold lettering, professional photos, the works. My mom shared it with the caption, "Can't wait to meet my next little angel." She never shared a single post about my pregnancy. Not even one. I stared at that screen, not sad, just tired. Tired of begging for space in a story that clearly didn't have room for me. That night, I folded some baby clothes and whispered again to the little girl inside me, "You will never wonder if you're loved." Not for 1 second. Because I didn't care what Mom thought anymore. But I cared deeply about making sure this cycle ended with me. If my mother could look at her own daughter and see nothing, I would look at mine and see everything. And that would be the difference. My daughter wasn't even born yet, and somehow she was already being erased. After the baby shower disaster, Mom didn't call, didn't text, not even to fake an apology. The silence was louder than her insults had been. At first, I tried to convince myself it was better this way. No drama. No toxic energy. Just peace. But that peace didn't last long. A week later, Amanda threw a gender reveal party for her second baby. It was held at a rented botanical garden, complete with balloon arches, catered brunch, a violinist, yes, a violinist, and a professional photographer. And guess who was hosting it all?
Mom.
I wasn't even told about it until I saw photos flooding social media. There she was, my mother, hugging Amanda, holding her belly, laughing in slow-motion videos. One picture stopped me. She was kneeling next to Amanda's toddler, kissing his cheeks, captioned, "My favorite little man. Can't wait for your baby sister to arrive." Favorite? She had never once touched my belly. She hadn't even asked to feel her granddaughter kick. Tyler saw me staring at my phone too long and gently pulled it away. "Don't do this to yourself." But it wasn't just me anymore. It was my daughter they were erasing now. She wasn't even here yet, and she was already being treated like a ghost. I told Tyler I needed air and went for a walk. My steps felt heavy. Not just because I was 7 months pregnant, but because I felt like I was carrying years of being forgotten, and now I was passing that weight to someone innocent. I sat on a park bench and watched a little girl chase bubbles with her mom. They were laughing, loud, and without shame. It looked so natural. I wondered if I'd ever had that. Or if I just learned early to stay quiet so I didn't get in the way. The next day, I got a text from Amanda. "Hope you're doing okay. You really shouldn't have let Mom ruin your party like that. Maybe next time don't take things so personally." I stared at the screen in disbelief. That was her version of support? I didn't reply. 2 hours later, another message popped up. "Also, Mom said she might forgive you if you write her a note or something. She's feeling really disrespected." Disrespected? She spit on my cake. In front of everyone. Called me unfit to be a mother. And now I was the one who owed her? It was like being stuck in a nightmare where everyone else had the script but me. That night, Tyler made me tea and rubbed my swollen feet. I wanted to cry, but couldn't. I felt too hollow. "I don't get it," I whispered. "Why does she love Amanda so loudly and pretend I don't exist?" Tyler didn't try to fix it. He just held my hand. And in that silence, I decided something. I couldn't change the past, but I could protect my child from becoming a shadow in her own family. No more chasing crumbs of affection. No more begging for someone's love who only showed up to hurt me. My daughter would never feel invisible, not in my house, not in my heart. Even if that meant cutting people out. Even if that meant standing completely alone. Because loving her would never be a performance. It would be a promise. And I was finally ready to keep it. It started with an innocent visit. My dad had called and asked if I could help organize some of his old files. He was never the loud one in our house, more like the shadow that followed my mom's storm. Quiet, worn down, always in the background. Still, he tried in his own quiet way. And that counted for something. Tyler drove me over, just in case I needed help lifting boxes. My belly had gotten heavier lately, and so had my thoughts. We walked into the house I grew up in, every room still frozen in time. Amanda's piano trophies on the shelf. Her high school portrait still framed above the fireplace. And nothing of mine. Not even a school photo. Dad led me to the garage, where we started digging through old storage bins. Most of it was junk, tax documents, broken holiday decorations, old cables and wires. Then I found it. A shoebox, taped closed with yellowing edges. It wasn't labeled. No dates. No names. Just dust and silence. I peeled the tape and opened the lid. Inside were letters. Dozens. Some folded neatly, others messy, angry, torn at the edges. They were written by hand, in my mother's sharp, rushed handwriting. At first, I thought they were love letters. Then I read the first line. I should have ended the pregnancy. I wasn't ready. And she ruined everything. I froze. The letter was about me. I picked up another. Every time I look at her, I see the mistakes I made. She wasn't supposed to happen. And another. Amanda saved me. She was my second chance. My real daughter. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I read each word, like they were bricks being laid on my chest. I had wondered my whole life why she hated me. Now I knew. It wasn't about what I did. It was about what I was. A mistake. A burden. A symbol of her ruined plans. I had been trying for years to fix something that had never been broken on my end. It wasn't my failure. It was her decision, made before I ever took my first breath. I sat on a stool, staring at the pile of poison in my lap, and whispered, "She never even gave me a chance." Tyler crouched beside me. "You don't have to read more." But I needed to. One more. "She'll never be Amanda. She doesn't shine. She doesn't know how to win people over. She's just there." That was it. That was the sentence that broke the last thread holding me to her approval. I had spent so much of my life trying to be seen by a woman who closed her eyes the moment I was born. I placed the letters back into the box. Calmly. Gently. Then I asked Dad, "Did you know?" He didn't answer right away. Just looked down at his shoes and said, "Your mom, she had a hard time. She never forgave herself. Or anyone. But that wasn't enough. A hard time doesn't excuse a lifetime of cruelty." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just stood, looked him in the eye, and said, "I forgive you for not stopping her. But I won't let her do the same to my daughter." He nodded once. Quietly. Like he knew he had lost something too. That night, I went home and lit a candle on the kitchen counter. I took one letter, the first one, and held it to the flame. I watched it curl and blacken, her hateful words turning to ash. Then I whispered into the silence, "It ends with me." Not just the hurt, not just the silence, but the need for her approval. I was done trying to be the daughter she never wanted. Now, I was becoming the mother I never had. Grief makes people quiet, but clarity? Clarity makes people dangerous. After burning that letter, I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone. I didn't even cry. I just changed. Something in me shifted. It was like I stopped looking for a place in my mother's world and started building my own. The next morning, while folding baby clothes, I remembered something my dad said years ago, during a Thanksgiving dinner when he had too much wine. He'd leaned over and mumbled, "One day, all this will be yours too. That trust you're in it, even if she forgets." At the time, I thought it was just drunken rambling. But now, it sounded like a door. So I opened it. I went to my office, a tiny corner in our guest room filled with folders, legal books, and the quiet power of being underestimated. I was a licensed estate attorney. I'd passed the bar 5 years ago. My family never paid attention. They just called it your little paper job. They never asked what I did with my law degree. They definitely never thought I could use it against them. I opened my dad's old trust documents. I still had access. He'd added me to the management portal before his memory started slipping. I wasn't just a listed beneficiary. I was a co-trustee on one of the biggest property holdings they owned. The farmland they always talked about selling? Half of that was legally tied to me. And that was just the beginning. As I dug deeper, I found transfers Amanda had initiated, quiet wire moves from the trust into a shell company linked to her husband. It was sloppy, lazy, and very, very illegal. I printed the statements, highlighted the violations, and filed a motion to freeze the trust assets until a full review could be done. Within 48 hours, Amanda's lifestyle collapsed. The first call came from her. I didn't answer. The second came from her husband's number. I declined again. Then my mom called, and I answered, because I wanted to hear her voice break. "Did you touch the trust?" she hissed, skipping right past greetings. I protected what Dad built. Amanda's been funneling money. "You've misunderstood. She was investing. She was stealing," I said calmly. And I stopped it. Her voice rose. "You're destroying this family." I took a breath.
"No, Mom."
"You already did that. I'm just cleaning up the mess." She called me selfish. Said I was bitter. Said I was doing this for revenge. And maybe part of that was true. But what I really felt was free. For the first time in my life, I wasn't reacting to her. I was acting for me. And for my daughter. The fallout was swift. Amanda's credit cards got declined at a baby boutique. She posted a cryptic story about jealous people ruining blessings. Mom stopped tagging either of us in anything, like silence could undo the damage. But I wasn't hiding anymore. I let the legal team do their job. I let the truth breathe in sunlight. And I went back to focusing on the baby. One night, Tyler and I sat on the couch, his hand on my belly, feeling our daughter kick. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "I'm better than okay. For once, I feel like I'm not just surviving. I'm protecting." He smiled. "You always were stronger than them. You just didn't know it." I leaned my head on his shoulder and whispered, "Now I do." Because this wasn't just about money or titles or documents. It was about ending a legacy of silence. A legacy of women being told to stay small so someone else could feel big. And now I had the pen. And I was rewriting everything. The day of my daughter's naming ceremony was perfect. Not flashy. Not expensive. Just soft and peaceful. We held it at a small garden near the lake, surrounded by willow trees and friends who had become more like family. People who had stood by me, lifted me, seen me. There were fairy lights strung between branches, baby pink flowers in mason jars, and a dessert table filled with handmade treats. No catering companies. No violinists. Just laughter and warmth and truth. And at the center of it all was Grace, my Grace, wrapped in a white cotton blanket with little pink roses. Her eyes still closed, lips curled into the faintest smile, like she knew she was finally safe. I hadn't heard from my mother in weeks. Amanda either. And honestly, I hoped it would stay that way. But the universe wasn't done testing me yet. The ceremony had just started. Our pastor said a few soft words. Tyler read a letter he'd written to our daughter. I was just about to give a small speech when I heard the sound of heels on gravel. And there they were. My mother and Amanda, walking in uninvited. Heads turned. Whispers spread. My stomach tensed, not in fear, but in readiness. Mom marched right up, wearing a pale blue blazer and a face full of fury. Amanda followed like a shadow, arms crossed, her expression tight. "I see you've decided to throw another party," Mom said. "This time with stolen money?" The audacity stunned even me. People stared confused. Tyler stepped forward, but I raised a hand and stopped him. This time, I didn't need anyone to defend me. I turned to face them.
Calm.
Measured. My voice clear. I didn't steal anything. I protected what Dad gave me. What he wanted me to have. "You froze the trust," Amanda barked. "Do you know what you've done?" "Yes," I said. "I stopped a thief."
Gasps.
Mom took a step closer, voice low and bitter. "You think this makes you better than us? You'll never be Amanda. Never." And that's when I smiled. Not out of cruelty. Out of clarity. "Thank God," I said. "I never wanted to be." I turned toward the guests. My voice rose just enough to carry. My family spent years pretending I didn't exist. They told me I was a burden. That I was invisible. And I believed them. People shifted uncomfortably. Some looked at my mother, others at me. A quiet tension settled in. But I'm not invisible. And neither is my daughter. I will not raise her in a legacy of silence. I will not teach her to shrink so others can feel tall. My mother's face flushed deep red. I looked at Amanda.
"And you?"
"You stole from our father. You thought no one would notice. But I did. And I stopped you." Then, without blinking, I turned back to my guests. "And now, if you'll excuse me, we have a cake to cut." I walked away, slow, steady, my baby in my arms, while they stood frozen like statues in the middle of sunlight. Tyler brought over the cake, a simple one-tier sponge with pink roses and "Welcome, Grace" in soft gold letters. I held the knife, smiled at my daughter, and whispered, "This one's for you." The crowd applauded as I sliced into the cake, Grace nestled safely against my chest. No one looked back at my mother or Amanda. They had come to shame me, but left ashamed. Because sometimes you don't need to scream to make a point. You just need to stand. And I was finally standing. It's been 3 months since the naming ceremony. 3 months since I stood in front of everyone, family, friends, strangers, and chose my daughter over the woman who gave birth to me. I haven't spoken to my mother since that day. She never called, never asked about the baby. Not even once. Amanda tried to save face on social media, posting old pictures and vague captions about betrayal and fake people. But even her noise faded. Eventually, people stop listening when you cry wolf too many times. And me? I've never felt lighter. Grace is growing fast. She's already started smiling at the sound of my voice. Tyler says she has my eyes. I hope she has more than that. I hope she gets my strength, the strength I never knew I had until I needed it most. Some nights, after I've rocked her to sleep and the house is quiet, I sit alone on the couch and breathe. Not waiting for an apology. Not needing anyone's approval. Just breathing. Existing on my own terms. The trust audit wrapped up last week. Amanda was removed as a beneficiary due to fraud. My name remains. Dad didn't protest. I think, in his own quiet way, he was relieved someone finally took control. I didn't gloat, didn't make announcements. No fireworks. No revenge speeches. Just quiet decisions with lasting impact. That's how I wanted to live now. Not loud like anger, but quiet like fire. This morning, I took Grace out for a walk. Just us. The sun was soft, not too hot, and the breeze felt like a whispered promise. We passed a bakery, the same one I used to walk by as a kid, nose pressed to the window, wishing I could afford a cupcake. I went in, bought a small vanilla cake. Just one layer. No lettering. Just white frosting and pink roses. We came home. I lit a single candle. Not for a party. Not for show. For peace. I placed Grace on my lap, kissed the top of her head, and whispered, "You'll never wonder if you are enough." Her little eyes blinked up at me like she understood. "You'll always know." Then I blew out the candle. No cheers. No audience. No chaos. Just a mother, a daughter, and the sound of healing. It wasn't the ending I thought I needed. It was better. Because it was mine.